Refused to go on our family Christmas vacation because my sister invited the boy who bullies my daughter at school. When he heard my daughter was going, he immediately backed out. Never thought I'd be one of those people asking strangers to judge my family drama, but here we are. I, 43 am really close with my family, always have been. We're talking my siblings, their spouses, all the kids, my parents, the whole damn circus. There's 6 of us siblings total, and between us we have 11 kids ranging from 8 to 18. My parents are in their 70s but still pretty active and involved in everyone's lives. Every year we go on this big family vacation around this time, staying somewhere for 2 weeks, and coming back right before Christmas. We've been doing this since we were kids ourselves, and now our kids are part of the tradition. We rent this big cabin in the mountains a few hours away. There's a lake nearby for swimming in summer, and in winter there's sledding and this little ski resort about 20 minutes away. We're supposed to leave in like a week. I'm divorced and have full custody of my daughter, 15F. Been that way for about 8 years now. Her mother isn't in the picture much, sees her maybe twice a year if that, but that's a whole other story that I'm not getting into. The divorce was messy, there was some stuff with alcohol, and eventually she just sort of checked out of parenting. She lives in another state now with her new husband. Makes the occasional phone call, sends birthday and Christmas gifts, usually late, but that's about it. My kid's great though. She calls herself a nerd and is pretty much into all the stereotypical stuff, anime, video games, Star Wars, you know the type. She's got these big thick glasses that she's always pushing up her nose when she gets excited talking about something. She used to get bullied pretty bad in middle school, but high school's been better. Most of that crap stopped once kids grew up a bit. She's got a small group of friends now who are into the same stuff, and they have sleepovers and go to those comic convention things together sometimes. Except for this one asshole kid. I'll call him Jeff, 16M. He's my nephew's best friend, and honestly my nephew can be a bit of a dick too sometimes, but that's teenage boys for you. My nephew is my sister Karen's son. Karen is the youngest of us siblings and has always been the most dramatic one. She was the baby of the family growing up and I think she never really outgrew that. Everything's always a big deal with her. But this Jeff kid? Complete nightmare. We've had so many meetings with the school about him. We've met with his parents multiple times. My daughter switched classes to avoid him. None of it works. This little shit goes out of his way to torment her. And it's not just regular bullying. My daughter says she can handle name calling, which pisses me off that she even has to, but Jeff takes it way further. He pulls her hair, has ripped her clothes a couple times, destroys her stuff. I remember one time she came home with pen ink all over her backpack because he'd stabbed it repeatedly with a pen. Another time all her notebooks had pages torn out. One time he stole her backpack and dumped it in a toilet in the boys' bathroom. They actually got into a physical fight last year and both got suspended. My daughter's never been in trouble at school before that. I remember picking her up from school after that fight and she had this split lip and her knuckles were all bruised. Apparently Jeff had stolen her backpack, she confronted him, he shoved her, and she just snapped and punched him in the face. Can't say I blame her. I was actually kinda proud of her for standing up for herself, though I didn't tell her that since I don't want to encourage fighting. The school made them both take Saturday detention for like a month. So yesterday I was talking to my sister, nephew's mom, about trip plans, and she casually mentions needing to buy Jeff a winter coat. I was confused at first, then it hit me that she was planning to bring this kid on our family vacation. I kinda lost it, not gonna lie. Told her right there that we weren't going if Jeff was coming. She immediately started in with the guilt trip. Family tradition this, don't break up the family that. I cut her off and said I'd eat the cost of our portion, and it's not cheap, we split the rental fee between the siblings, plus food and everything else, but we're not going if Jeff is there. After going back and forth for a while, I finally just said I'll only go if they disinvite Jeff. She got all quiet for a minute and then asked why I hated this kid so much. I was like, are you serious? Have you not been paying attention to how he treats my daughter? And she had the nerve to say that kids will be kids and Emily, my daughter, needs to learn to get along with different types of people. I almost walked out right then, but instead I just told her my decision was final. Here's where it gets complicated. We grew up with money. My parents did well and were always there for us. My dad had some business that did well, I don't really understand the details but they were comfortable enough to send all 6 of us to college. My siblings and I are all doing pretty good financially too. I make decent money. My ex pays child support but it's not much. Anyway, we're comfortable. Jeff isn't so lucky. His home life is garbage from what I can tell. His dad couldn't give less of a shit about him, and his mom is one of those people who thinks her kid can do no wrong. She actually had the nerve to call my daughter evil during one of our school meetings. The kid's got it rough at home, I get that. Lives in some crappy apartment complex on the edge of town. Jeff is on some kind of financial assistance at school, and my sister mentioned that she helps his family out sometimes with food and clothes and stuff. My sister kept making excuses for him. He didn't grow up with advantages like we did, and the one that really made me want to puke, maybe he just has a crush on her. When I brought up the fight they had, she actually said, "I know, but Jeff needs this." I was like, "Needs what? To keep tormenting my kid?" And she got all huffy saying I was being insensitive. Apparently she thinks he needs a break from his toxic home life. And yeah, that sucks for him, but why does that mean my daughter has to spend 2 weeks trapped in a house with the kid who's made her life hell? I told my sister my mind was made up and went home. Now my family is in complete chaos. My parents are calling and texting constantly begging me to reconsider. Half my siblings think I'm right, half think I should just suck it up. My sister Karen is telling everyone I'm being cruel to a disadvantaged kid. My daughter had a full-on panic attack when I told her Jeff might be coming. She started hyperventilating and I had to sit with her for like an hour while she calmed down. She straight up told me she's not going if he's going, and I don't blame her. It's not like we never tried to help the kid. We've had so many talks with the school. I've met with both his parents separately. His dad just sat there looking bored the whole time like he couldn't wait to leave. His mom kept interrupting to say how my daughter was probably exaggerating or outright lying. Hell, I even tried talking to Jeff directly once after the backpack incident. I saw him at a school event and pulled him aside, tried to have a man-to-man talk about respecting others and how his actions were hurting my daughter. He just stared at the floor the whole time and mumbled whatever when I was done. Nothing has worked. And now my daughter is supposed to spend her winter break with her tormentor because my sister wants to play savior to this troubled kid? I feel like I'm going crazy here. My sister keeps sending these long texts about how I'm being selfish and that if I really cared about family I would do this one thing. But my daughter is my family, and my first priority. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, but the amount of shit I'm getting from everyone is making me question myself. My brother thinks I should just go and keep my daughter away from Jeff during the trip, but the cabin isn't that big. There's no way to avoid each other completely for 2 weeks. It's got 6 bedrooms, a main living area, a kitchen, and a game room in the basement. That's it. My oldest sister suggested I have my daughter stay with her family's side of the cabin, but that's not a real solution. Why should my kid have to hide from this bully during what's supposed to be a fun family vacation? Last night I got a call from my dad asking me to reconsider. He suggested maybe Jeff has changed, maybe he's matured. I asked him what evidence he had of that, and he admitted he was just hoping. He did say he understood where I was coming from, though, which was nice to hear. At least someone in the family gets it. Maybe I am being an asshole. Maybe there's some compromise I'm not seeing. I don't know. That's why I'm asking strangers on the internet, I guess. Am I the asshole for refusing to go unless they disinvite this kid? Edit. Holy shit, I didn't expect this to blow up like this. I'm trying to read all the comments but there's a lot, and this whole situation is still pretty overwhelming. I wanted to clarify some things since a lot of people are calling me incompetent or a bad dad, which hurts, not gonna lie. You're only seeing a small part of a complicated situation. About the clothes ripping, there were only 2 incidents where he ripped clothes she was wearing. Once in PE when she was running and he grabbed her shirt collar from behind and it ripped. Another time he grabbed her sleeve in the hall, tripped, and it tore. The school wrote both off as horseplay gone wrong and made his parents replace the uniforms. I should have been clearer about that. There were other times he tried to snatch her jacket from her hands and they fought over it until it ripped. And one time, which I consider sexual assault, he cut a piece off her skirt without her knowing. The other property destruction was him breaking her pens, stealing her lunches, writing on her jackets and shoes with Sharpie, wiping his nose on her stuff, and the backpack toilet incident. The hair pulling isn't as violent as some comments are making it sound. He yanks her hair when walking past in the hall or pulls it to get her attention in class. Still completely unacceptable, but my daughter described it more as annoying than painful. I'm not downplaying anything she tells me, but I felt like I should clarify since some comments made it sound way more violent than what's happening. As for my nephew, he seems uncomfortable with how Jeff treats my daughter but doesn't really do anything about it. I give him shit for it when I can, but he's a teenager and standing up to friends is hard. As his uncle, I can only push so much, his parents need to be the ones setting boundaries there. My nephew is generally a good kid, just makes dumb choices sometimes like all teenagers do. He's gotten better about calling Jeff out when he's being an ass, but they've been friends since elementary school so it's complicated for him. I've actually been in contact with a lawyer about some of this stuff, so I'm trying not to share too much detail that might affect anything legal. I just want to protect my kid. The lawyer basically said we could potentially get a restraining order, but it's complicated because they go to the same school. We've been documenting everything though. Someone asked about involving the school more aggressively. Trust me, we've tried. They give Jeff detention sometimes, but nothing really changes. The principal basically told me that since Jeff has home issues, they're trying to be supportive rather than punitive. Whatever that means. I've gone up the chain to the superintendent, but got nowhere. They keep saying they're handling it appropriately but won't give details because of student privacy laws. I didn't mention this before, but my sister has been weirdly involved with Jeff's family for about a year now. She volunteers at this community center program that helps low-income families, and that's how she met Jeff's mom. She's been helping them with rides, getting them groceries sometimes, that kind of thing. I think she sees herself as some kind of savior for this family. I get wanting to help people, but it seems like she's crossing boundaries here. Also, someone asked why Jeff would even want to come on a trip where my daughter would be. According to my sister, he doesn't know my daughter will be there. He just knows it's a family trip to a cabin, and he's excited about it because he's never been on a real vacation before. That makes me feel kind of bad for him, but still not enough to subject my daughter to 2 weeks with him. I'll try to answer other questions, but this got way bigger than I expected. Thanks to everyone offering advice and support. Update. Hi everyone. I figured I'd update since so many people commented. So the night before last, my family had this big meeting at my sister's house to talk everything through. I went in with an attitude, not gonna lie. I knew I wasn't changing my mind, but my daughter really wants to go on this trip, so I showed up. My sister lives in this fancy subdivision with those houses that all look exactly the same. I got lost trying to find her place even though I've been there like a dozen times. When I finally found it, everyone's cars were already there, so I was the last one to arrive. Great start. The weather was crappy too, raining and cold. I sat in the car for a few minutes dreading the whole thing. My daughter waited in the car with me asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine, just mentally preparing for the drama. She said, "We can just go home if you want," but I knew we had to get this resolved one way or another. My sister's house is always too warm, and she had these scented candles burning that gave me a headache within like 5 minutes of being there. Everyone was already gathered in her living room with these tense looks on their faces like somebody had died or something. It started with my sister and mom crying and begging me to just go. That got shut down pretty quick by pretty much everyone else there. My mom kept saying, "I just want everyone together for Christmas," over and over like a broken record. My sister kept going on about how bad she feels for Jeff because of his crappy home life. She mentioned that Jeff and Emily have been polite to each other when family's around, so she thought they were getting over their issues. Yeah, because my daughter is terrified of making a scene. My sister went into this whole sob story about how Jeff's dad lost his job last year and his mom works 2 jobs now and they might lose their apartment. I feel bad for them, really, but that doesn't change how he treats my daughter. She also mentioned that Jeff doesn't really have anywhere else to go during the break since his mom will be working and his dad is, in her words, not reliable. I guess his dad was supposed to have him for Christmas but backed out or something. I also found out the financial waiver Jeff is on at school covers his tuition, not just uniforms like I thought before. So I was wrong about that part. Apparently my sister's been helping his family more than I realized. She's been driving him to school most days since his mom's car broke down, and she's been buying him clothes and stuff pretty regularly. No wonder she feels invested in him. At one point my sister got so emotional talking about Jeff's home life that she had to take a break and go to the kitchen. My brother followed her to talk privately, and I could hear them arguing but couldn't make out what they were saying. When they came back, my brother seemed annoyed and my sister's eyes were all red from crying. Anyway, my sister was trying to convince the whole family to let Jeff come. And look, I do feel bad for the kid's situation. I'm not a monster. But my empathy for Jeff doesn't outweigh my responsibility to protect my daughter. Thanks to someone's comment, I straight up said my daughter does not feel safe around Jeff, which made my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, say well that settles it. That was pretty much the only thing my brother-in-law said the whole night. He mostly just stood in the corner drinking beer and looking uncomfortable. My other sister, Lisa, suggested maybe Jeff could come for just one of the 2 weeks, and Emily could come for the other. I shot that down immediately. Why should my kid miss half the vacation? Plus, I can't take 3 weeks off work, one for the first half of the trip, one to come home while Jeff's there, then another to go back for the second half. That's ridiculous. Turns out my sister was the only adult who actually wanted Jeff to come. My mother and one sister-in-law wanted us to compromise and just ignore Jeff during the trip. Everyone else was firm that Jeff shouldn't be there. No one even knew he was invited until I sent the group text saying we weren't going because of him. Not even my sister's husband knew. My dad, who's actually a therapist, has been super supportive through all this. He's one of those old school guys who doesn't show much emotion usually, but he's been calling me every day to check in. During the family meeting, he brought up some concerning points about potential sexual assault. Apparently my nephew told him that Jeff does have a thing for Emily, but has a really unhealthy way of showing it. Dad was worried that being in a house together for 2 weeks could lead to Jeff trying something. That caused another whole argument. My sister got defensive saying my dad was making unfair assumptions about Jeff. My dad stayed really calm and talked about patterns of behavior and escalation and a bunch of other stuff I don't really remember. But it seemed to get through to my sister a little. My youngest brother, who had been quiet most of the night, finally spoke up and asked my sister why she was so invested in this kid. She got all defensive and said she was just trying to help a family in need. He pointed out that there are lots of families in need that don't involve a kid who torments his niece. That actually seemed to get through to her more than anything else that was said. We all took a break after that and had some food. My sister had ordered pizza, but it was cold by the time we actually ate it. Emily was in the basement with the other kids watching a movie. I checked on her a couple times and she seemed okay, but I could tell she was anxious about how all this would turn out. In the end, they decided Jeff wasn't going. I told my sister she was doing a great thing trying to help this troubled kid, but her niece needed to come first in this situation. Someone in the comments pointed out Jeff might retaliate against Emily for being disinvited, so we came up with a plan. My nephew had to tell Jeff at school that nephew, didn't want Jeff and Emily fighting the whole trip, so Jeff couldn't come. I thought it was a stupid plan, but as long as Emily wasn't blamed, I didn't care. We left that night with everyone hugging. My sister apologized, though I'm still pretty annoyed with her for trying to be this kid's savior at my daughter's expense. We'll have that conversation eventually. My mom also apologized to Emily, saying she didn't mean to seem like she was okay with subjecting her to Jeff, she just wanted us all together. Still frustrated with her too, but whatever. We went to get ice cream after the meeting even though it was like 30 degrees outside. Emily got her usual mint chocolate chip and talked the whole way home about how excited she was for the trip. It was the happiest I'd seen her in a while. I told Emily not to get too excited because I still half expected my sister to try sneaking Jeff along. Meanwhile, I talked to my lawyer friend who advised me not to go if Jeff was going and to avoid talking to him or his parents directly. No problem there, I wasn't planning on it anyway. I also had a long talk with my brother-in-law who said he was really disappointed in my sister over all this. Not my business really, but good to know he's still in Emily's corner. He mentioned that my sister has gotten really involved with Jeff's family over the past year, even helping his mom find a better job. I get wanting to help, but it feels like she's crossing boundaries. Wednesday was pretty quiet. My sister texted to ask if Emily still had that allergy to strawberries. She doesn't, that was years ago, and I took that as a good sign that she was planning for us to be there. I spent most of the day at work dealing with end-of-year stuff. It's always hectic this time of year. Got to give my nephew some credit, he took it well even though he was disappointed. He knows what Jeff does is wrong, but teenagers don't want to lose friends, I guess. He texted Emily to apologize for the whole situation, which was nice of him. They're not super close but they get along okay usually. They're only a year apart but have totally different interests. He's into sports and she's into all her nerdy stuff, but they can usually find some common ground with video games or movies. Then last night, Emily shows me a text from my nephew that just said so Jeff backed out Lamau with no explanation. I called my sister to figure out what happened, and she seemed confused too. Get this, Jeff didn't even know Emily was going on the trip. When my nephew started to tell him he couldn't come, he just said Emily is going to be there and Jeff immediately said he couldn't go. Nephew said Jeff got weird about it and seemed disappointed but backed out immediately. My sister was kind of bummed because she'd already bought Jeff a new winter coat and some other stuff for the trip. I offered to reimburse her, but she said she'd just give it to him anyway since he needs it. She did mention that she called Jeff's mom to ask why he suddenly didn't want to go, and his mom said something about him feeling uncomfortable around Emily because of their history. Whatever that means. Maybe he finally realizes he's been an asshole? Doubtful, but I can hope. So that was odd, but a relief I guess. That's really it. Thanks again for all the advice. I'll probably update again after the trip if anything interesting happens, but I'm hoping for boring and peaceful. Happy holidays or whatever. Second update. Quick update because a few people messaged me asking how the trip went. It was mostly fine. The cabin was nice, Weather was decent, kids had fun. My sister and I are still a bit weird around each other, but we're working on it. Emily had a great time, especially hanging out with her cousins and building this massive snow fort that the younger kids loved. The drive up was long, took almost 6 hours because there was an accident on the highway that had traffic backed up for miles. Emily slept most of the way, and I listened to podcasts. When we got there, most of the family had already arrived and settled in. My sister gave Emily a hug and acted like nothing had happened, which was fine by me. Better than rehashing the whole thing. The cabin was the same as always, a little run down but cozy. Emily got to share a room with her 2 girl cousins, which she was excited about. They stayed up late giggling and talking the first few nights. I bunked with my brother in one of the smaller rooms. He snores like a chainsaw, but I came prepared with earplugs. We did all the usual stuff, sledding, board games, movie nights. My dad made his famous chili one night. My mom baked cookies with the kids. One strange thing though, Jeff's mom kept texting my sister during the trip asking for updates and sending pictures of what Jeff was doing at home. It was weird. My sister seemed annoyed by it but kept responding anyway. At one point she mentioned that Jeff's mom wanted to know if he could come for the second week, and my sister shut that down right away, so I guess that's progress. There was one night where my sister had a bit too much wine and started crying about how she just wanted to help Jeff and his family. My other sister took her outside to talk, and they were out there for like an hour. When they came back, my sister seemed better, and she didn't bring up Jeff again for the rest of the trip. My nephew was fine the whole time, though he did mention that things would be awkward with Jeff at school now. I told him that sometimes doing the right thing isn't easy, and he seemed to get it. We got home yesterday and Emily's already asking about next year's trip. So overall I'd say it worked out. Edit. Sorry for another update, but I just had to share this. The school called me yesterday. Apparently Jeff got caught vandalizing Emily's locker. He wrote some nasty stuff on it with permanent marker. When confronted, he admitted he was mad about the trip situation. So much for that progress I mentioned. The school is suspending him for a week, and I'm meeting with the principal after the holidays to discuss more permanent solutions. Emily is upset but handling it better than I expected. My sister actually called to apologize again, and she's finally admitting that Jeff's behavior is a serious problem. I guess sometimes it takes things getting worse before they can get better. Anyway, just wanted to close this out.